Today is October 5th. Welcome on in to Daily Cards Live, the postseason edition here on ClaibsOnline.com. Still brought to you by Munganast St. Louis Acura and Royal Banks of Missouri. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Bob Ramsey and Rammer. Well, we expected to not have to do a show till Friday once we knew all the League Division Series matchups. But everybody just made quick work of everything back in the wild card rounds. We had 4 sweeps in those series, which included the Blue Jays getting swept by the Twins, the Rangers sweeping the Rays in the American League, and in the National League, we had the Phillies sweep the 2 games over the Marlins, and the what was the fourth one? The Diamondbacks and the surprise over the Milwaukee Brewers. So your matchups for the second round of the series has the Dodgers taking on the Diamondbacks, the Phillies and the Braves, the Astros and the Twins, and the Orioles and the Rangers, as we wait for Bob Ramsey to log back in and rejoin us here on the broadcast. We will, we'll try to get you some sort of pitching matchups, and we will, there we go. There's Rammer. I thought, Rammer, it was going to take even longer after the message I just got from you, but just going over what the matchups are in the second round, I haven't gotten to this question yet, and I'm glad that you are back on when you are, because I wanted to ask you, are you, your thoughts on the, I guess not reseeding the second round of the tournament? What do you think of just kind of going straight forward, having the bracket set and going at it?
I think the way it is the better way to do it. If you didn't like your seed, win more games.
But no, what I'm saying, like right now, the Diamondbacks are the 6th seed, and the Braves are not playing the Diamondbacks in the second round. The Braves did everything they could to win, to have the best record in all of baseball. Shouldn't they get to play the 6th seed? Shouldn't they get to play the worst seed in their first games of the playoffs? Well, you should,
bracket play, no matter what the sport and what the level, is kind of laid out by whatever you're, you and I do a lot with youth sports and youth baseball. So you have pool play to set up your bracket, and then that's just the bracket. If your goal is what is your goal to not have the bad teams move on? Well, then don't put them in the first place.
Yeah,
it's pretty simple. I've seen some people complaining about it. Well, the Twins shouldn't have got their matchup, or the division winners shouldn't. It should go by record and all that. Well, then don't have divisions. But then when you say that, people, what? How do you do that? Well, and then people, you got to either have your divisions, wait the division schedule, and go with the bracket, or eliminate divisions and leagues, and whoever have the schedules be perfectly even. And at the end of the season, take your however many teams you want in, how many teams you want in, 6, 8, 12, 16. I don't care. But then you go 1 through 16. But if you do, and then there's an upset, don't kill the team for having an upset. They're doing what they're supposed to do, try and win.
The 1 seeds, or I should say the 1 and the 2 seeds, the teams that had the byes in the first round, they still benefit by having their pitching set up exactly the way they want to here in these first round games. Some of the teams, they're number ones. You could see them maybe come back maybe on Sunday if they really feel like they need to press and get that guy out there. But in a case of like the Diamondbacks, they didn't have their 1 or their 2 throwing in game 1 of the series. They had Zach Gallen go in game 2. So that they'll have Merrill Kelly ready to go in game 1 of their series against the Dodgers. No bootlegging lineups for you. I was going to switch it over, and I was going to have the bootleg and probable pitchers for the first round games, but we don't even have those yet. The teams have...
We
Yeah.
got one, right?
Two, actually. We have two in the, according to MLB.com, we know that Clayton Kershaw is set to go for the Dodgers. Justin Verlander is set to go for the Astros in Game 1 against the Twins. So those we know. Those you kind of figure those are all set and ready to go. I would be shocked if the Braves aren't going with Spencer Strider for them in Game 1, right?
Yeah, I think that's logical. Yeah.
And then for the Diamondbacks, as we mentioned, I would imagine Merrill Kelly goes for them, seeing how he was set to go in Game 3 anyway. The Phillies, that's one. I'm not sure which direction they go with that. Is it Michael Lorenzen? Is it Ranger Suarez?
Well, I don't think it'll be Lorenzen. He got relegated to the bullpen late in the year. He was not performing. When he first came over, he was very good.
We threw the no-hitter.
He backslid a little bit and actually got relegated to the bullpen. I'd be surprised if he was their Game 1 guy. Shocked, actually.
Yeah, so that's one, and they still have. You've talked about the Phillies bullpen multiple times here on the show, just how good they are late in the game anyway. So as long as you do get 5-6 innings out of your starter and you have the lead, it should be a pretty set down the line for that.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be interesting to see. Health has already been a key. I think it's absolutely clear of all the things that happened. The one thing I think that put the Twins over the top was getting two of their three big hitters back. They hadn't played for quite a while. Royce Lewis and Carlos Correa, they changed the series for the Twins. Who is going to be the most healthy in this next round, I think is going to be very critical.
Let me ask you about this. You mentioned earlier how much you and I do with youth baseball, and I'm sure down at the Ballparks National each and every weekend that you go and you step out of your office to go watch games, you see, some 11 or 12-year-old make a base running mistake, and you go, "Oh God, what are you doing out there?" But in the wild card rounds, you saw stuff happen in these games that you wouldn't see a 9-year-old do in some, with Christian Yelich and then with Vlad Guerrero getting picked off in the situation that he got picked off in. It just amazes me that star players like that let that happen in key aspects of their biggest series of their seasons.
Sometimes players let their ego and their intensity to want to do something great get in the way of good logical thinking, and that's what happens. But then you get a play like Bichette getting thrown out by Correa, and Bichette probably is safe 60-70% of the time. It's players forcing plays, and Correa came up big on that one.
Yeah.
Did it end up being a mistake? Well, by the end result, yes. But I can see a guy trying to push the envelope there and get it done.
I'm glad you brought that one up, because that's a situation where I think if you talk to the third base coach, he would tell you 10 times out of 10, he's sending that guy home. When he sees the play lay out in front of him like that, knowing that he has, Bichette running the bases, he's going to send him knowing that Correa has to run so many feet to get the ball and make a perfect throw at home, which is exactly what he did in that. You cannot fault the third base coach at all for that. But speaking of third base coaches, in Philadelphia with the Phillies, the play that Bryce Harper gets out there, he reads the outfield, he knows what's there in front of him, and you see him. I mean, third base coach is more than halfway down the line, hands up in the air telling him to stop. And Bryce Harper scored somewhat easily on that play, knowing the situation in there, and kind of just, okay, what did the third base coach see that Bryce Harper, or I guess what didn't he see that Bryce Harper did see?
Oh, I think I think they saw everything exactly right. And Harper decided, I'm going.
Yeah.
And that's what great players do. Great players decide, I'm going to make a play.
Yeah.
And I think the third base coach was maybe, I'm not going to say he was right. I think he was making a conservative decision. And Harper says in the moment, I'm not going to play conservative. I'm going to score on this. I think once he rounded the bag at second and saw that ball kind of, slowly come off the wall at that funny angle, I think he goes, this guy's not going to throw me out. I'm going to make a play.
Yeah.
And if you're out, you made a mistake. Sometimes results-oriented thinking does have reasonable application. Thinking a play like that, it does. Now, if you send a guy who wasn't ready to run and he gets thrown out, then it goes back to the third base coach. But that's not what happened.
Rammer, so we have 4 series now in the American League and National League Divisional Series. 4 teams advance out of the wild card. So I'm going to ask you this. Of the Twins, the Rangers, the Diamondbacks, and the Phillies, the 3 teams that just swept their wild card rounds, give me one that you think has the best chance of winning in the divisional series now.
I think the Rangers.
That's who I'd go with too.
And I think, and that is not to disrespect the Orioles, who are not only really good, but also really fun. They're a team that's fun to root for, but they're young. It's their first time in. And while the Rangers don't have all these veterans who have done a ton of stuff, in fact, they've got a lot of young guys that are key contributors for them. But I just feel like they've got a little more. I just think the lack of experience for the Orioles could end up being a factor. I think watching Eovaldi throw yesterday, I think despite the pitching problems the Rangers have had, much of it due to injury, I think they're past it. Time will tell. The Orioles may just beat the hell out of them, but I don't think so. I think the Rangers are the team.
I think that Rangers lineup is just so deep, 1 through 9. It's not the best lineup in baseball of the 8 teams remaining. It's not, but it still is really, really deep when you get down into that 7, 8, 9 hitter. There is those guys can still mash down there, and it just the Orioles, they fought through it in September, but remember they lost Felix Bautista, their big closer, in the late in the year.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, is that going to come into play in any of these games? And I think the Rangers going on the road, it really, it's not like the Rays really had much of a home field advantage with 19,000 in attendance there. But what I can't wait to see is how what Camden Yards is like for their first games, for their first 2 games there in that playoff atmosphere in those this weekend.
It ought to be great. And I think we all underestimated how important Adolis Garcia is for the Rangers lineup, a good, deep lineup. But when he wasn't in the lineup, they didn't play very well. And when Seager wasn't in the lineup, they didn't play very well. So while they're deep, they still need all the pieces to make it all sort of connect, if you will. And if they've got those pieces in place, they're very tough. In fact, I think if I was voting, I know it sounds blasphemous relative to the baseball god Ohtani, but I think if I was voting for MVP this year, I'd vote for Seager.
I don't. So it's really funny you mentioned that. So I was watching the Rangers-Rays game, the game 1, and Tim Kirkjian was in the booth for it. He was one of the color commentators on ABC for the call, and he was talking about how earlier in the day he turned in his MVP ballot and said that he was not allowed to say who he voted for. He said there's a lot of guys in this game that were on my ballot, and they were like, do you want to give us any more clues? And he said, I'll tell you this. He goes, in a season where Shohei Ohtani wouldn't have existed, Corey Seager would run away with the MVP.
I agree.
Yeah, he didn't say who he voted for, but he pretty much told you right there that he voted Ohtani 1 and Corey Seager 2, and that it was just impossible for him to vote for anybody but Ohtani as number 1, kind of just saying that, maybe best offensive player, maybe you give that to Seager on the year. But
the way I look at it is, contending teams.
Yep.
Who was the player for them that made the difference? The MVP. Not saying he's the best player in the game or in the American League. I just think he was the MVP of the league relative to his team, and therefore his team's in postseason, and that's how he wins it for me.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, that's I think how you look at it. It's really, really hard when you have a once in a lifetime guy like Shohei Ohtani doing what he's doing every year too. But it's
Well, you probably
yeah,
wouldn't have voted Babe Ruth every year either
right.
As the MVP. In fact, there would be the cranks like us out there. Well, what would he do without Lou Gehrig hitting behind him? Okay, well, that's fine. I'm just saying, in a given year, somebody other than the best player can be the MVP.
All 4 games, all 4 series begin on Saturday at 12 o'clock. Rangers and Baltimore, Minnesota at Houston at 3:45. Then you have Philadelphia and Atlanta at 5, Arizona and the Dodgers at 8:20 on Saturday. So you have a full day of college football and baseball lined up for you on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun on that. And then that's when you start to kind of split the series on Sunday, with only the American League playing on Sunday and only the National League playing on Monday. So that is what we have to look forward to over the next few days. Rammer, you and I will be back next week with another edition of Daily Cards Live as these series go on. Brought to you, as always, by Munganast St. Louis Acura and Rammer Royal Banks.
Royal Banks of Missouri, where better service means better banking. Give them a call. Talk to the great bankers there about your situation, and they will reach out to you to help you achieve your financial goals. 314-212-1500, Royal Banks of Missouri. By the way, one other bit of Cardinals news, since we are Daily Cards Live, no exit press conference.
They announced they're not doing anything?
They canceled their news conference.
I missed that. I missed that text, email,
So,
however they were going to send it.
I saw a lot of people on social media complaining and taking shots. You know what I say? No news is good news.
Yeah. That's you know what? Let them get to work. That's more time to figure out who that starting pitcher is going to be, who those 3 starting pitchers are going to be for the next year.
I know we're out of time. You want to sign Trevor Bauer?
No.
Why?
I think there's more to it seems like it's more trouble than what it is. He hasn't pitched in Major League Baseball in how many years now? I think there's more than just the one case that got thrown out. That's fine. Give me Aaron Nola. You just watched him shove in a game 2 yesterday. Give me Aaron Nola. Give me other guys.
What if you don't have those choices?
Then you know what? Then it's time to find somebody else who can make those moves happen.
All right.
That's Hey, he is Bob Ramsey. I'm Joe Roderick. This has been another edition of Daily Cards Live, postseason edition, getting you ready for the ALDS and NLDS right here on ClaimsOnline.com.
Munganast St. Louis Acura has a great selection of new and certified pre-owned Acuras. Get 3.9% financing for up to 36 months on all new Acura models, or get $1,000 in loyalty incentives on the 2023 TLX and RDX, and $750 in loyalty incentives on the 2024 Integra. Get financing as low as 1.99% for up to 36 months on certified pre-owned TLX and MDX models. Munganast St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.